might be a liberal if. You might be a liberal if you think the word gay means homosexual instead of joyously happy. Or if you think the rainbow is a homosexual icon instead of the sign of God's covenant with His creation given in the book of Genesis. Or if you think justice means always getting your way while using the law to shut down conservative and Christian thought. You might be a liberal if you think judging is a bad word. How dare you judge me? While you make judgments every single hour of every single day. You might be a liberal if you think toleration is a good thing, yet you are intolerant of Christians, the Bible, the Constitution, our founding fathers, the Judeo-Christian heritage of the United States. You are intolerant of conservative talk radio, conservative media sources, conservative opinions, traditional marriage. Oh, well, you get the point. You might be a liberal if you think progressive means progressing toward a better society rather than progressing toward the time-proven failures of socialism and communism and Marxism. You might be a liberal if you think teaching little children about condoms, masturbation, and abortion clinics is really sex education. You might be a liberal if you think killing babies in a womb means choice. You might be a liberal if you think making daily choices about who you will have sex with is a genetically coded action that can't be helped. You might be a liberal if you are against the war on terror, but are only too happy to make millions of dollars by making movies about it or going to movies about it. You might be a liberal if you preach about the evils of capitalism from the comforts of your nice home. You might be a liberal if you cry about obscene profits, but still demand your weekly paycheck from your employer who had to make a profit for you to have a paycheck. You might be a liberal if you think the name of God or Jesus should be banned and censored, except, of course, when used in profanity. You might be a liberal if you think you can give $1 to somebody through government handouts without first having to take it from someone else who earned it. You might be a liberal if you're against my right to own and carry a firearm. Yet you'll not put up a billboard in front of your house that says, "We have no guns in this house." Gee, I wonder why. You might be a liberal if you whine about religious leaders involving themselves in politics, but yet you celebrate the Reverends Jackson, Sharpton, Farrakhan, and Jeremiah Wright. You might be a liberal if you support low-income housing, until, of course, they start building in your neighborhood. You might be a liberal if you think Michael Moore's films are historically accurate, or if you believe the AIDS virus is spread by a lack of federal funding, or if you believe that there was no art before federal funding, or if you support welfare for illegal immigrants who don't pay taxes. You might be a liberal if you think racial hatred is wrong, but class hatred is acceptable and you work frenetically to promote class envy. You might be a liberal if you think the best way to deal with terrorist regimes is to please and appease them, or if you think violent gun crime would automatically disappear if honest citizens just would not carry guns. You might be a liberal if you believe that 1 + 1 is 2, or 3, or 4, or whatever it takes to protect the child's self-esteem. You might be a liberal if you think that porn should be federally protected by freedom of speech, but a public profession of faith in Jesus Christ should be outlawed. You might be a liberal if you scream and shout about Christians ramming their beliefs upon you, but you say nothing when atheists do the same. Or if you think if somebody disagrees with what is being said, they are challenging or denying your rights to free speech. You might be a liberal if you think that poverty is caused by the wealthy. Or if you think the ACLU really cares about individual rights. Or if you are against sexual harassment, except when committed by a Kennedy or a Clinton. You might be a liberal if you support the right of a woman to speak out and advance herself in society, unless her last name is Palin or Bachman or Brewer. You might be a liberal if you believe the Bible is racist, sexist, and homophobic, but think the Quran should be required reading. You might be a liberal if you find Christianity and anything relating to the Bible potentially harmful to you and your children, but yet you're completely open-minded to your children engaging in witchcraft, occultism, mysticism, etc. You might be a liberal if you think having an open mind means being pro-gay, pro-abortion, anti-Christian, anti-business, and anti-conservative. You might be a liberal if you think only white people can be racist. Or if you believe that posting the 10 Commandments in schools will hurt the children, but promoting homosexuality and paganism and telling them that they got here as the result of an unpurposed cosmic accident actually helps the children. You might be a liberal if you think the answer to any crime, no matter how heinous or serious, is counseling. You might be a liberal if you were ready to impeach Bush if he went to war against Iran without congressional approval, but you applaud Obama's bravery for doing the same thing in Libya. You might be a liberal if you're against censorship unless it's censoring true American history, or Christianity, conservatism, Western culture, Rush Limbaugh, and Coulter. Then, of course, you are for censorship. You might be a liberal if you care more about animal fur and turtle eggs than a baby boy or a baby girl in the womb, who will be chopped to pieces and thrown in a garbage can. You might be a liberal if you think it takes a village instead of parents and a family to raise a child. You might be a liberal if you think that when a violent crime is committed with a gun, you think it was the gun itself that did the crime and not the offender. You might be a liberal if you want to ban guns, but not automobiles, when far more people die in automobiles each year. You might be a liberal if you want to ban the book Tom Sawyer from schools for being racist, but yet you approve of My Two Mommies as being wholesome and acceptable. You might be a liberal if you think every solution to every problem can be solved with more government and more taxes. And finally, you might be a liberal if you actually think that unions care about their members, the ACLU cares about civil liberties, the National Education Association really cares about education, National Public Radio is fair and balanced news, if you think People for the American Way really care about the American way, and if you think Barack Obama cares about anything else other than Barack Obama. You might be a liberal if you think living for self is progressive and wholesome, but living for Jesus is despicable. We've just scratched the surface here. This really is way too easy.